Developed by RC Software, the Prince of Persia for Super Nintendo is not as much a port as it is an enhanced remake. The first sign that something's different appears at the very beginning when you are given 2 hours to save the princess instead of 1. This is because there are 20 levels in the game, not 12. But not only that, each of the original 12 levels has seen significant changes. For example, in the original game you get the sword by completing a couple of jumping challenges while going to the left. Here there's a whole sequence of delving towards an underground river before you find a dead body with a sword. There's a lot of screens that look exactly like the ones from the original game, but they might lead to a different puzzle or obstacle. So if you're like me and are playing the SNES Prince of Persia after trying out pretty much every other port out there, prepare for your muscle memory to mess you up. And this is not a criticism, the amount of surprises is actually very pleasant. Even when some things might not make sense in comparison. Like for example, when your shadow form blocks a jump, in the original you fall down onto a deeper dungeon level, but here you sort of fall into literal hell you have to climb out of. It might feel jarring, but I actually like it because it creates a much bigger contrast and therefore a stronger emotional response. Plus, just because it doesn't fit the original Prince of Persia doesn't mean it's out of place in this version, where Jafar's magic usage is far more prominent. And of course, the added variety is always welcome. The amount of obstacles used in the original Prince of Persia could get a bit stale by the end of the game, though ultimately that wasn't too problematic due to its length. Still, the SNES Prince of Persia has tons of new traps, lots of interesting new secrets and situations, cool ways to get upgrades, twists on old locations for people familiar with the original. There's just a lot of really great stuff, and most importantly, it doesn't feel like the game overstays its welcome, or that the pacing suffers, or that some special moments like the skeleton fight in level 3 become less impactful. Everything fits just so well. It is a bit sad that the sword fighting hasn't really seen any improvements at all, though the amount of interesting combat situations has increased. I particularly enjoyed the 6-armed god boss who doesn't try to hit you directly, but rather through skulls that fall down when he jumps. There is a bit of a negative side effects to levels becoming longer. If you die, it takes more time to get back to where you were. Now, in many levels there are actually checkpoints that respawn you mid-level. However, it doesn't seem that all levels have that, and when they don't, it can get pretty annoying. But what makes the act of replaying levels in such situations more bearable are the perfected controls. I haven't encountered a single situation where Prince wouldn't be responsive to my commands or not follow my exact inputs. This is certainly the best implementation of the original game's core mechanics, and since the levels are still focused on deliberate search of more effective and safe routes, with every retry you get to successfully cut down the time spent reaching your last location. What I like the most about this version is that even though it doesn't add lots of set pieces or cutscenes, and most of the levels are pretty self-contained, it still feels pretty epic in scope thanks to the music and visuals, and the animations are as strong as ever in the franchise. I will assign a Stasocritic rating of 85 to this version of Prince of Persia. If you can play only one variant of the original game, it has to be this one. It's Prince of Persia on steroids. A great journey that's as enjoyable to play as the original while upping the ante and living up to the cinematic potential.